everyone. You're listening to Rockstar Doctor Life, the show for badass chiropractors and healthcare professionals looking to adjust their lives and businesses for a little more simplicity, greater profit, and a lot more fun. I'm Melissa Longo, and if you're looking to define success on your own terms, hear the stories of docs living out their own rockstar doctor lives and keep finding ways to create a career that aligns with who you are. Keep listening. Okay, I'm here. I'm excited. You've heard me talk about this. Dr. Heidi Havoc is sitting across the table from me in person. I am blessed to be in New Zealand. My youngest son has started the college here, and we were able to make this conversation happen, and I couldn't be more excited. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to join me for, I know it's going to be a dynamic and energetic conversation.
Oh, thanks, Melissa. It'd be absolutely lovely to meet you. And I also think that you know, we're on the same page.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sitting here looking at your book. I have 101 questions for you, but I think the best place for listeners to start, because some people don't know of your work, some people don't know who you are. Like, who is Dr. Heidi and what are you doing right now? And then, you know, what's your role here at the school? And then maybe we can backtrack to how you got here.
Okay. So stop me if you want, because I'm very good at just keep going. I'm Heidi Havoc. I'm half Norwegian, half New Zealander, so hence the strange accent. I grew up in the medical model with my dad being a medical doctor, but my great-grandfather, my mum's grandfather, was one of the first 1,000 chiropractors ever to graduate from Palmer College in BJ's days.
Wow.
Like, how freaky is that?
Yeah, that's amazing.
He graduated in 1924, so it's really quite weird. But so anyway, I feel like I was absolutely destined to do what I do now, because I feel like I've got a foot in both worlds.
Right.
Both in the, you know, traditional allopathic understanding of the world, but also the chiropractic understanding of the world. And then I've ended up doing, after I graduated from New Zealand College of Chiropractic with my chiropractic degree in 1999, I went on and did a PhD in human neurophysiology.
Okay.
So I'm a neuroscientist, a brain scientist, and I have been studying ever since what the impact of spinal dysfunction has on the brain, but also the effects of adjusting subluxations on the brain, or chiropractic care. I mean, sometimes that gets a bit interchangeable because, again, it's hard to explain to a neurophysiologist what a subluxation is.
So it's hard to explain it to the public and even to some other chiropractors if we're honest about it.
Yeah. But it's not hard for me now. But that's
Okay.
after 25 years of doing this, Melissa. And
Right.
it's not that the way I explain it now is the be-all and the end-all and the final description and story, but it's at least a version of what a subluxation is and what effects it has on our brain and therefore our health that is biologically congruent and backed by scientific research studies. And that's actually quite important. So it's taking philosophy, testing it with science, and then coming up with best description or best model for understanding what a subluxation is and the effects of adjusting subluxations based on current scientific evidence, if that kind of makes sense. But we haven't stopped. Like, we're still actually looking, you know, but we've discovered a hell of a lot in the last 25 years.
Yeah, no kidding. And so you were, correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the first graduating classes from this school.
Yeah. Kelly Holt was in the first year. So and I actually am partially responsible for him going on and doing his PhD and for him taking the presidency of the college.
Well, that's okay.
I didn't want another outsider, and he's doing a fantastic job. So Kelly was in the first year, and a lot of the people that are still involved with the school and are very involved in the association and leadership and board at the New Zealand board, funnily enough, came from those first few years.
Yeah.
So I was in the second cohort through. We still didn't even know if we would even be able to graduate. Well, no, not graduate, but actually practice. You know, that actually depended on the first year passing by something like 80% of the class had to pass or something, you know. So it's like, thanks to them, really. It was a weird time.
Yeah.
Weird time.
We've gone through a few weird times in my generations, I think, too. But we don't need to get into that in this conversation.
No, let's try and stick to the neuroscience.
Yeah.
It's much more exciting.
So was research always in your passion? Like, did you love it from the beginning? Was it something, I mean, if you went right from studying to be a chiropractor right into doing a PhD, like, not everyone, my brain doesn't work like that.
No, and it wasn't a passion. I have one of those very, very curious brains. I've always wanted to understand, well, how does it work? Why? And so I continued doing some study at Auckland University after I graduated while I started practicing and having babies, because why wouldn't you do all of that all at the same time? And then, I was studying things like some education papers, some philosophy papers, some neuroscience papers. And then I bumped into my Bernadette Murphy, she's now Professor Bernadette Murphy in Canada. She was our inaugural, we had 3 lecturers only. So we had a science lecturer, we had a technique lecturer, and we had a philosophy lecturer. And that was it, the 3-legged stool, right?
Yeah.
That's when we started at the college, those early years. So anyway, Bernadette Murphy is to me, she's a real hero. She's a woman, a mother. She was one of the first people ever to do chiropractic neuroscience research. And first published paper on chiropractic neuroscience in 1995, I believe, was the first paper. An H-reflex study of hers, which was part of her master's, and she went on and did a PhD. So I have so much respect for that woman. And I bumped into her at Auckland Uni because at that stage, she'd had to leave the college because the college was going through one of their financial issues and couldn't pay their staff.
Oh, no.
And she had young kids, and I'm sorry, but I need money to pay my mortgage.
Yeah.
So she left and got a job at Auckland Uni. And so I bumped into her there, which was all really lucky, I suppose, now, when you look back at it. And she goes, I remember you from school, Heidi. You're so smart. Why don't you do if you want to keep doing some stuff, why don't you do like a neuroscience degree with me? And I'm like, I'm not that smart. I can't do that. And she goes, yeah, I remember you.
Yeah.
So literally, if it wasn't for her belief in me.
Yeah.
So then I did neuroscience papers and focused on that across 4 different departments at Auckland University for a postgraduate diploma and got A+ across the board. Still thought I was faking it.
It's good to hear that someone like you who's so accomplished and smart has these same issues that the rest of us have.
I think it's a real woman's thing, eh? That we really downplay our own skills.
Yeah.
So then she talked me into applying for a PhD. So I went straight from a postgraduate diploma. You meant to do a master's degree, but I'd already done the equivalent of a master's in my postgraduate diploma, as you do.
Yeah.
And at this stage, I had a little
while you're raising your
3-year-old. Yeah, I was married. A 3-year-old. I was still practicing because I was the main breadwinner. My ex-husband, their father, my kid's father, was also a chiropractor 2 years behind me. So I had to pay his school fees and, earn the money. And so my postgraduate studies.
You see what you're here is you are the real life rock star. Like you're literally doing it all.
I call it insanity, Melissa. I call it absolute insanity because why would you do that? But no, I was just bitten by the bug and I really enjoyed working for Bernie and I really wanted to help her. That was like my ambition in life. And so I started my PhD and right from those early studies in my PhD, we saw we were changing the brain. And that's actually the first time anyone had shown that lasting brain changes. Like there were some central nervous system reflexes that had been shown before, but we didn't really know if that was at the spinal cord level or brainstem level.
Yeah.
But so the studies that we did for my PhD, first ever studies showing lasting changes in the brain, which means neuroplastic changes. So I was like, absolutely. I knew, and at this stage I had a new baby daughter. So I had a 3-year-old son, 3.5.
You had 2 babies at the same time.
And I had a newborn daughter. I literally was in at university on weekends with her and her bassinet that I was rocking with one foot while I was tapping away at the computer. I mean, it was insane. But and I'll show you later on because you're here in New Zealand. I'll go show you the old piece of equipment that I used because it was this ancient old thing.
Yes.
An old analog bioamplifier that we used. But anyway. But so I knew then that we'd hit on something that could change the way the world views what chiropractic is. So I was hooked.
Yeah.
And then Bernie up and leaves New Zealand and goes back to Canada, which leaves me with a choice. I either give up this research thing, because you can't really just do research out of your own garage,
No, I guess not. Now, especially when I've seen the facilities you guys have here.
Yeah, you kind of need to be
associated
the
engineers,
with someone.
Yeah. And
then I was offered the job as a research director. But again, I didn't even have my PhD. So I literally told him to fuck off. I said, I can't do that. I've got to pay for my, I've got to pay my own mortgage.
Yeah.
You'd have to pay me out of practice, And I was like, all panicky.
Yeah.
But anyway, he rang me back. And I said, well, you'll have to pay me out of practice because, I need the money, to pay my bills and I've got 2 kids. And he goes, no worries. And I'm like, oh. Okay then. So then that just started this journey that, ever since 2006 that has just taken over my whole life and has literally changed the whole world in how we view what chiropractic is and does. Because we know now, like it's beyond a doubt, like no one can actually refute the fact that when you're adjusting the spine, you're changing the brain's perception of what's happening inside the body and the world around it. And that is mind-boggling.
I love it. And what I love about your work too, Heidi, is you have a gift to take these complex topics and explain them in ways that someone like me, I mean, and I've graduated with a chiropractic degree and all these things, but I think I still do have the same limiting beliefs, like I'm not that smart. Like I can apply, I know my skills, I know I'm good with people, I know but if you give me like hard data to analyze, it's not really my thing. But yet I have people like you who can do it for me and then break it down into concepts.
Do you want to know where that came from, Melissa?
Sure.
I genuinely think that came from one of my biggest traumas as a 5-year-old girl. Because I was born in New Zealand by coincidence because my grandparents were in this really bad car accident, and I think that's when my great grandfather died in that car accident. Anyway, long story short, we moved back to Norway when I was 5 years old.
Okay.
And I remember not being able to be understood, not being able to understand, and not being able to speak to anybody. And I started school early to help me learn the language, but the teacher that got me was so pissed off of having a 5-year-old, because in Norway you started school when you were 7.
Okay.
So she was so annoyed of having a 5-year-old in her class. So instead of taking that up with the principal that had let me in, she just didn't speak to me for 6 months until I turned 6.
Oh, geez.
So what I learned as a 5-year-old is if people don't understand you, you're completely isolated.
Yeah.
It was a nightmare.
Yeah.
So I honestly think that my desperate need to be understood has become one of my greatest strengths, because I am a translator of the science. It's become one of my biggest gifts.
Yeah.
It's weird though, eh? And I think a lot of our traumas...
Yeah, but that's also, I'm looking at the Biology of the Belief book sitting across from me here in this room. Yeah. And I think that everyone's got stories like that are different, right? And I appreciate your honesty and you're explaining it like that, because you take something that turns into one of your gifts. And it's changed your life and changed so many of our lives as well.
And the freaky thing is, the recent studies that we've been doing, so we fast forward 25 years now of all this research, what we're finding now, Melissa, is that the parts of the brain, it's called a network because there's different hubs in the brain that speak to each other, and that's why it's called a network, and they have a particular conversation. There is a network in the brain that creates that narrative story that we tell ourselves, that becomes our reality. That is literally what Bruce Lipton is talking about. We've done an interview together, actually. Check it out on my YouTube channel. Yeah. But yeah, it's really interesting because we've also shown now that with chiropractic care, we change that default mode network that creates the narrative of who we are and how we fit into the world. So that's literally like...
I think I've had adjustments, particularly when I was in chiropractic school, because I went to CMCC. So we spent so much time and money going to seminars and things that were vitalistic outside of the school. And I remember having adjustments that I think fundamentally changed the way I looked at things and happened in certain moments and certain adjustments. And we all have had the experiences now, listeners, I'm sure you've had this, where someone comes into your office grumpy, you adjust them, and next thing you know, they're smiling and they're more relaxed.
It's
and
like
they
have a personality transplant. It's unbelievable, isn't it?
Exactly.
And that's the beauty, I think, too, of us in the research team here at the New Zealand colleges. We've also practiced. So both Kelly and I, we've seen this happen in front of us.
Yeah.
We've seen it in kids. We've seen it with animals. You can't fake that shit.
No.
It's real.
Yeah.
But the unbelievable thing now is that we can actually explain it scientifically, and these explanations are biologically congruent. Taking pressure off the nerve roots was never really biologically congruent. There's never been a peer-reviewed publication ever to show that taking pressure off a nerve root helps anything other than relieve that radicular pain.
Yeah.
Ever. So in our entire existence...
Meanwhile, we've been building these practice models and these schedules of care and all this understanding around that theory.
Yes, but not just around that theory, but around the results, right?
Right, yeah.
Because what you see in practice is you see it works.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to me, it's just that the model was a bit wrong.
Yeah.
And as soon as we started, back in, because I was still thinking nerve roots and, innovation and, you've got to adjust the neck to affect the arm and all this shit, right?
Yeah.
But what we've since discovered is no.
Right.
No. What appears to be the case is... when you get subluxated, it's the little muscles, those small muscles that go in between the individual vertebra,
Yeah.
that they, with funnily enough, I just got to laugh sometimes at how congruent it is with the past philosophers and, our forefathers, with physical trauma, emotional trauma, or inflammation.
Oh, yeah.
So trauma,
3 Ts.
toxins, and thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah. We know that those little muscles can switch off their communication to the brain. And, it doesn't sound like a big deal, right? But over time, we know that those little muscles even atrophy, they shrink, they get stiff, fibrotic, fatty infiltrated. And all of this is known as maladaptive changes, like negative adaptive changes. And now there's so much more research coming out about how important those little muscles are for the brain. So it's hugely involved in things like all sort of musculoskeletal pain, not just the spinal pain, not just neck, back, lower back, thoracic spine, but arms and legs. Because again, if you think about it, where do your arms and legs attach?
Yeah. Well, and it makes sense too. So sometimes you see people in at least my practice where, and I know this is you guys too, docs, where you adjust. They come in with back pain, and then you adjust their cervical spine. And their back pain gets better. You don't even touch their, there's such a network, right? Or you do like a leg check and all of a sudden, I adjust their neck and their leg extension is improving. And I didn't touch, so there's...
You didn't touch the legs?
No. Yeah.
Because it's, what we're discovering is that the brain really needs to know where the core of the body is. And the core of the body obviously is where, arms and legs are attached as well to that same spine. So you can't actually send any muscle messages to, say, your biceps or your quads or anything like that without also knowing where they attach.
Right.
So if you don't know where they're attached, because you're not getting that information from those little muscles, because they're literally the eyes in the spine for your brain. It's how your brain knows where your spine is, where your legs attach, where your arms attach, and where your arms are. So this is where, you notice as well probably with your patients, is that they can be a little bit more clumsy. Like my mum used to say, I keep putting my coffee cup down and I miss the bench.
Yeah.
But it stopped after you started adjusting me, Heidi. And I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or people with overuse injuries or golfers' elbows. And, why do we help that without even necessarily touching the elbow or the, or the knee or the whatever it is that they've got problems with, is because we're clarifying for the brain where the spine is, where those arms and legs attach.
Yeah, I love seeing it with kids the most. With the babies who were adjusted, within the first few months of their life. And they sail through their movement patterns. They just thrive. They get sick less. These kids, they simply just thrive, right? They're very different
I
than
remember my
non-adjusted
kids like diving under tables, missing the tabletop with millimeters,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
And I was panicking, but they never hurt themselves. And then my friends' kids, they would trip over their own feet.
Oh, yeah.
Bang their head on the table, fall over, break their arm. And I was, you could see it, right? My fingers used to itch, and most of my friends, I got permission to to check and adjust.
You're holding
their
their
kids.
babies and you're kind of like, I just want to put my
stroking
hands around
them.
So with all the research that you've done, is there anything that stands out for you the most? Like, was there one discovery that really pivoted onto other ones, or was there something that changed the way, the direction of the research that you've done? Or is there anything that, if you had to pick one thing?
A couple of big things, actually. But one of the big ones for me was when we discovered, this was with a collaboration we were doing in Denmark with Dina Lalick, bioengineer, and Asbjørn Drews, who's a pain professor. So it was done in their lab, and that's the first time we had whole head EEG. We had, I'll show you through the lab now, and we've got like several whole head EEG systems and multiple 16 channels, multiple 64 channels. We've got heaps of equipment, but we didn't have that in the early days. Like I was writing 3 different grounds, and I needed to get all 3 to get the equipment to just do even a single one of those studies.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it was a nightmare. But so this is the first time we did a whole head EEG study, and she was the one that localized our changes to be the prefrontal cortex. So that's just behind our forehead. And that part of the brain, Melissa, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's our mental health, our intelligence, our decision making, our logic, our reasoning. It's all about all our movements. It's about how we experience pain. It directly activates our autonomic nervous system, so all of these changes in, say, organ function and things like that can now suddenly be explained. Like it was a massive, all of immune system connections that, we see it in practice, right?
Yeah.
But so that was a huge shift for me. And then
So sorry, just to back up. So that study examined the role of an adjustment on that area of the brain?
It looked at this consistent finding from when I first started my PhD research was this little squiggle called the N30 somatosensory rate potential peak. Doesn't matter what it's called, but it's a squiggle. And that squiggle got smaller consistently. And we did it about 5 times. I didn't even believe it myself.
Okay.
So in 5 different populations over several years, we kept seeing the same thing. So then we ended up in Denmark, and Dina Leilich, she was this super clever, bright bioengineer, and she could calculate from a 64-channel EEG. Up to then, I've only glued individual electrodes onto the brain.
Right.
So again, like they'd be stuck in that chair, like they wouldn't fucking be allowed to get up and go to the toilet, you know. I'll bring a commode, you know, like you're there until we finish. Of course, it's not like that. That's why we've got ethics committees, Melissa, to protect people like you from people like me.
You got to get the research done.
but in an ethical way. But so she was the first then that could calculate from whole head EEG. They can sort of back channel it and figure out, decompose down to where the sources are from. Now, of course, this is 2016, so now there's even better systems, and now I've got a whole fucking team of these kind of bioengineers. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like Imran Khan Niazi and Osman Ghani, they just do unbelievable EEG work. So anyway, but back then it was the first time. And so she was the one, and she was like, it's very obvious when you do what you do, which was me checking and adjusting these patients.
Yeah.
You change the prefrontal cortex.
Wow.
And it is significant. Like it was big time. And these guys were even what we call subclinical pain patients. So they didn't have pain. And this was essential for me because I wanted to understand what was happening from an adjustment. And I knew that I was changing the brain, but pain sensations change the brain too.
Right.
So if you know, and what happens when we adjust people normally? Their pain goes down, right?
Pain goes away. They feel better. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if I'd had adjusting people and their pain reduced and they had brain changes, there's not a neuroscience review on the planet that would let me argue it was the adjustments. They'd say it would be the changes in the pain feelings.
Oh.
So I had to have people that weren't in pain.
Right.
So that's why I found this subclinical pain category, because then at least they had a history of ache, pain, and tension.
Yeah.
But on the day you test them, they're completely symptom-free. So if I'm adjusting someone completely symptom-free, but they're full of subluxations, and I then get brain changes, it has to be the adjustments. Because the control group didn't change. You know, could still be sort of placebo effects and things like that.
Yeah.
But we've even done studies, Melissa, in Turkey, where my beautiful bioengineer has pretended to be a chiropractor. Yeah. So I come in and I'm Dr. Heidi and he's Dr. Imran. And, you know, we have just 2 different techniques. And so this is in Turkey where chiropractic doesn't really exist, at least back then when we were doing it.
Yeah.
And I'd have to leave the room because I was just about laughing, you know, wetting my pants laughing at Imran pretending to be a chiropractor. He's pushing their tummies and lifting their arms and legs. Because I'm an AK practitioner, so I muscle test and things. So he's just pretending to be me, right? But of course he's not adjusting. And some of these little old ladies were coming back saying that they were sleeping better and feeling better after Dr. Imran's treatments. And I'm going, what? What the heck? And we weren't calling it treatments, by the way, but that was how they interpreted it, right?
Yeah.
And they were like sleeping better and feeling better. And they preferred his technique over mine. But the cool thing is, like we've done that twice now, is that the changes in the brain didn't happen in that group. So despite the placebo effect, despite them thinking he was a genuine chiropractor and making significant difference to their sleep and feeling and well-being, their brain wasn't changing. That only happened in my sessions.
Interesting.
So it is interesting. So there's something about what we do that genuinely changes the way the brain is functioning. And that prefrontal cortex was a big pivotal moment for me.
Yeah, I mean, what I love about it too is, like you've said, is like these are the things that we've seen in practice.
I know.
And now we actually have, this is how I explain it to people in my practice. Like, these are the things I've seen. I've been in practice 24 years now.
Yeah.
The changes that we see that we couldn't quite explain, but we knew that they were happening. And things that, as you said, the research wasn't really measuring. However, we knew that it existed. So now the research that you're doing actually validates it all.
I know. And I have not set out to validate something. And I think that's a really important point to get across. Because as a scientist, right, you're asking questions. And like my main question has always been, what is a subluxation? How does it negatively impact us? Obviously, that negative part is my own bias because I know it does negatively impact us. And what the hell happens? How does an adjustment actually work? Or how does chiropractic care work? Because, of course, it's not just an adjustment. There's an interaction and all that sort of stuff too. And we can get into that if you want to. We can go a bit airy-fairy on you. But so what is that? I didn't give a shit what the answers were. I just wanted to know.
Right.
Right? Because I knew it worked. I'd seen it in animals and kids.
Yeah.
I'd felt it in my own body. Like, I had no doubt that it works.
Yeah.
But I genuinely wanted to understand how. And I think there's a real beauty in that, because if you're not hung up on the outcome, like, I just didn't care.
Yeah, it's like starting with heart.
Yeah.
You know, when I first started this podcast 10 years ago, it was just because I was a single mom and I needed to have conversations with other women about how we were growing our practices, because I was doing it differently than what I was seeing out there.
Yes.
And everyone's like, oh, is there a business? I go, no, it actually morphed into some coaching and programs and all that stuff, but it was never the reason I started it.
No.
You know? And it's a big reason why the show is back, because
we are
I'm
different.
immersed back in it.
Hey, I mean, we are different as women, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And not just women, but we all have different, like, goals in life, I suppose.
Absolutely.
You know, I started out, I was going to practice.
Yeah. Yeah.
But look at me now.
Well, that's the whole focus of the show, right? It's like, okay, Rockstar Doctor Life, like, what is it? Well, you get to create that.
I know.
And you get to choose how you express your own gifts and your joy. And you clearly have different gifts than I do. There's some things that we absolutely have in common. But I really want listeners to always take that to heart. Like, if you listen to the variety of people on the show, there's docs who are doing locums, there's docs who are doing research, there's docs who are teaching, there's docs who have massive $1 million practices, there's docs who are being clinical directors, there's docs who are running small boutique home-based practices. There is everything in between. And that is what I want, you know, people to recognize, is that you can actually write the blueprint of your life here.
And
but
I think
the blueprint of your chiropractic experience should be based on, you know, what we actually see now. And I'm sure this might get a little spicy, but you and I both agree that I get really confused and really irritated with these people that say they're evidence-based, but they don't really look at all the evidence. It's like they're candy picking what they want to read.
I know.
And they're not looking at research like this that advocates wellness care. It advocates care for pediatrics. It advocates care for mental health disorders. It advocates all the things that we do.
Yeah.
And yet people don't want to see that.
I might be a bit naive, Melissa, but I like to believe in the goodness of people. And so I just think that maybe, because neuroscience is difficult to understand. And so I just sort of give them that benefit of the doubt that, you know, maybe it's just too difficult to understand. And so therefore they don't want to even consider it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I like you, I mean, I'm absolutely gobsmacked sometimes when people say, oh, you know, you're a vitalist. And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, well, you know, if I look at the way the brain works, it's totally intelligent, and it's self-organizing and self-healing, and, you know.
And truth is, there's vitalists who are not chiropractors. There's vitalists who are medical doctors and naturopathic doctors and lay people who just understand intuitively. You know, I met this woman just the other day at a coffee shop here, and we got chatting, and it turns out she's a patient of Dr. Brian Kelly. And, you know, she said, do you know him? I go, yeah, I know who he is, former president of this college in Life West, great human. And she was like, you know, I'm wondering all of a sudden, like, the more I hear you talk, like, I kind of just go see him when my back hurts, but, like, should I go see him? Like, I was just Googling, can chiropractic care help me with anxiety? And, of course, I'm like, yes, it can.
Yes,
like,
it can.
And I get into this whole explanation with her, and she's like, well, I'm going to have to ask him about that. And so there's people out there, and she was telling me all about her family and why they wanted to, you know, live like her grandmother lived. And so there's people out there that believe in vitalism. They just don't know that they do.
We've got professors joining our research team now, Melissa. It's unbelievable. I've got over 35 people now working just in the research center.
Yeah.
And it started
incredible
out,
from what it started
out
out
with me,
10
hours a week.
Yeah.
And Kelly Holt, who didn't even have a master's back then, who was volunteering 2 hours a week. Can you believe it? And now
I can, because there's a lot of heart.
35 people, But, so my point was that, there's this wonderful professor that's just joined us, Professor David White. And when I first started talking to him, like, I was literally thinking what you were just saying. This man is a vitalist. He just doesn't know. He even had his own green books. They just happened to be white. So he was showing me this book from 18 something rather, you know, about breathing and breath and how important breath is. But it's all about optimizing potential in a natural way.
Yeah.
So they are attracted to working with us because A, we're bright, but we treat people with respect. So I think that's another thing that the vitalistic chiropractor is all about, right? That we have a genius within.
Yeah.
And if we honor our genius within and work together collaboratively in an organized way, we can achieve so much more than what you would do on your own. So even our lab works that way. So we have a team, like me and Imran have a team of about 6 or 7 people, core team members, PhDs. But we all work to our strengths, and then we divide out the goodies. Okay, so who needs to be the next first author? Okay, well, you take the first authorship of this, and you take the first authorship of that, and we'll put your name first for that grant and for that grant, because but then we all do what we always do. So the guy that's really good at analyzing, he does that. The guy that's really good at collecting, he does that. The guy that's really good at writing, she does that. You know what I mean? And then together, we outperform most other research teams purely by working to our strengths. And trusting each other, because there's a lot of trust that goes into that, obviously. And we've got to get it right, make sure everyone feels that they're actually getting what they deserve too. But
so when it comes to your book that's sitting right in front of me, we want to make sure that listeners get a sense of okay, how can you learn more from, Dr. Heidi's research? And we'll put all this in the show notes, everyone. But I'm curious to know the name of your book. Why'd you name it The Reality Check?
Because I wanted us to have a little reality check. Who do you actually think the target audience for? I know you've had a little quick squiz through it, right? Who do you think the target audience was? I wrote it in 2014.
Okay.
It's actually still relevant.
Yeah.
But it wasn't for the public. I said it was for the public.
Okay.
But it was for the profession.
Yeah.
And we were having a little chat about this before we started as well, right? It takes me like 5 minutes to explain to a neurophysiologist or a scientist, brain scientist, what a subluxation is, its impact on the brain, and why adjustments work and how they work. 5 minutes, no problem. And they'll turn to me, well, of course it's like a reset in the brain and it's a neuroplastic effect. I mean, what else could it be?
Yeah.
Yes, yet I have been banging my head against a brick wall for over 10 years to try and get the profession to understand it. So you say I'm good at translating. It's been a painful journey and it's taken a lot of trial and error. But it's been a good thing because it means I feel like I can communicate with anyone at any level now and explain. I can explain it to a 5-year-old. I talk to people in the lift. I talk to taxi drivers. Jesus, I've referred so many people to hotel employees, everywhere around the world. But I'm actually writing the real public book now.
Okay.
And it's not about chiropractic. It's not a book about chiropractic. It's called Stress, Sex and Sleep: The Secrets of the Spine.
Oh, that's a sexy title, Heidi.
Because it's about their spine and their brain and their health.
Yeah.
And it's affecting
You've nailed all the things that people want to get more of in their life.
And sleep. Right. Well, we want to reduce the stress, right?
Exactly. They want to adapt better. So what's a typical day like for you these days?
Oh, God, I don't have a typical day.
What's the life of a researcher?
Fuck. I'm a bit of an unusual researcher as it is, right? So obviously I'm in charge of all things research at the college,
right,
which isn't just the research centre itself, but also the academic side of things, the teaching of the students, the faculty. So and everything's strategic moving forward. I mean, we're starting up a satellite college in Calgary where, I give talks all around the world because my research has become world famous. So, and we've got so much research now, it's insane. And we should come back to that, how your listeners can get hold of it, because we have quite a few good resources online now.
You do.
And there's also ways that you can help. Because if you are excited already about the research and you're not giving a little bit of money, even if it's like $20, $30, $50 a month on a regular basis to this research centre. I mean, we are the largest research centre on the planet, and I spend most of my time with my team trying to raise more money to keep the team. But they're wasting their time, in my opinion, writing non-chiropractic grants, because you can't get chiropractic grants because we don't have any granting bodies, right? Or very few, and I've already maxed them out. And then some. Thank you very much, ASRF and Nick Mick Foundation and Hamlin Trust and, you lovely people out there that have supported us for years. But we need big dollars now, big dollars. So we have to write these non-chiropractic grants. And the reason that can work is that, the organisation that hosts this team, if we get the grant, about 50% of the money, so if I've got $1 million, 500,000 would go to the college, but we get that back because our college won't take that money.
Right.
So there's 500,000 I can put into chiropractic research.
Right.
Whereas I still have to have my team do the actual project that they wrote the grant for.
Right.
Which is non-chiropractic, right?
Right.
It seems like a waste of time, but I can't keep these people. And they're so bright and brilliant researchers that we'll do anything we can. So anyway, so there's a way to
We
fund.
definitely need to make sure that docs know how they can support the research in an ongoing way. I know there's been different fundraising events and campaigns and things like that over the years I've seen.
But people might even not know about the research, right? So there's another way. So then we've created this whole setup called Horvick Research. So you can look up, or actually look up Chiros Hub. So CHIROS Hub, chiroshub.com. And there's a whole library, a whole resource library there with resources where we've translated the science into easy to understand language.
Yeah.
So that and it's like a whole library. So people feel like it's like drinking from a fire hose, and I get that, but it's to know that it's there for you. And so then we have like 5 hours of waiting room videos that can be played in the waiting room, where we're literally translating topic by topic into lay language, and they seem to be ridiculously addictive. So we've even got patients going, "Oh no, hang on a minute, I just need to see the rest of this."
Well
and the
done.
chiropractor's trying to get them into the adjustment room. And I was like, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
But no, so that's a good way. And even if you don't want to as a chiropractor, if you haven't got the time or the energy to learn it yourself, but for those that have got the energy, then I've got like a next level up, like a gold membership, where you also get access to a full Chiros Academy that's classes so that you can learn what you might not have been taught at school.
Yeah.
Right? Because how many chiropractic neurophysiologists do you think there is on the planet? You know? So you got to forgive your schools for not teaching this.
No.
Because, we don't exist.
No.
So I've created that library for that reason.
Yeah.
And I also work in with some schools around the world, which has been really, really rewarding as well. And then on top of that, we've got like a little learning academy again for CAs. So because they just need the facts. That's all they need. They need the facts, but they need it in a nice, easy to understand way. And if they know the facts, if they understand the science, and again, they don't have to be a neurophysiologist to understand it, right? That's the whole point of the translations.
Yeah.
Yeah. But all of that exists. If you go on
and it's
chiroshub.com.
fantastic. I mean, I think I just did the masterclass recently on...
Was it organ
just how to-
function or was it sports?
No, it was the one on just how to explain chiropractic.
Yeah, that one. Yeah,
That was great. And it was, it was 3 hours long by the time you spoke and taught for half of it. And then there was so many good questions. And I keep going back and replaying it because, there's tons of videos in there, and it's changed the way I can communicate it in my practice. Absolutely.
There's so many resources. So even like if you just want to dip your toes in at HeidiHorvick.com. So that's just my name, just HeidiHaavik. HeidiHorvick.com.
Yeah.
That's where I have like masterclasses, and that's where people book me for talks and things like that all around the world. But we've got multiple masterclasses. They're meant to be 90 minutes, Melissa.
Yeah,
And
but I
some of
loved
them
it
are like
because
3
you're
hours
just,
long.
again,
Yeah.
you're explaining it with such passion and interest, and that curiosity that you had as a child clearly has never left you.
Never.
And, is it what keeps you inspired to this day?
Yeah. Well, I get questions all the time, right? Like even one of our awesome Gonstead lecturers from the college here came to me and goes, "Now, Heidi, I know that it's not a bone out of place squashing a nerve root, but how do I explain that we can impact organ function? Because I know we can."
Yeah.
And I'm like, no worries. And so I dove into it, and he goes, "Heidi, can you just come teach that class?" And I'm going, no problem. So I did that. And then I figured, well, there must be other chiropractors out there. Or what about our impacts on mental health? So that's my next one coming up. So if you're interested in knowing, can we affect, anxiety and depression and things like that, then join my next masterclass, which will be in August, I think we've set that for. But so again, HeidiHorvick.com.
There's so many learning opportunities. You're a busy lady.
Oh, I know.
And your days are not consistent from what you've told me. You're spending a lot of time writing and doing research.
Yeah.
Looking for grants.
A lot of time looking for grants, a lot of time planning the studies,
Yeah.
Reading the research, staying up to date, because even the way we understand the brain has changed in the last 20 years, even the way we understand pain. We used to think that pain was caused by nociceptors, right?
Yeah.
These nerve-free nerve endings telling us that there was some tissue damage. It's not. So when you experience the feeling of pain, it is the brain setting off your danger warning system. That is a completely different view. You can have serious pain feelings, like they're real, but you can have no tissue damage whatsoever. Like, and there's tons of stories, there's tons of research that backs this now. Our understanding of glial cells, and we used to think that these little glial cells were the helper cells and that they just supported and fed the neurons. No, turns out they're the ones in the driving seat, and the neurons are just the wiring. It's unbelievable. So I have to, like, there's so much to stay up to date with, and then it's trying to tie in the whole model of our understanding of chiropractic.
Yeah.
And again, I could spend hours, Melissa, just talking about these networks and, but the coolest thing to me is last time I gave this talk in Norway to my dad's rehab center. So this was to doctors, physios.
Yeah, medical community.
And on the way home, my dad goes, so Heidi, if I've understood this correctly, when you chiropractors do what you do, it's like you touch someone's soul. Oh, and I just about burst into tears.
Oh.
Yeah, because we are changing these brain networks that create who we are.
Yeah.
Like we're touching the biology of belief with our adjustments.
Yeah, we haven't even tapped into in our conversation here what just happens when you lay hands on someone with that intention to help them.
We're even studying that now, Melissa.
Yeah, you can feel it.
We've got whole head EEG on the chiro and on the patient at the same time.
You really are doing lots of cool things here.
But see, I can only do these things with the chiropractic profession support because I can't get my team who, are working their asses off to do a project that's not funded.
Right.
But this one, my Imran, who sort of runs the lab for me now, because I travel so much.
Yeah.
This one he's pushed through for me. So this is my pet project that I'm really, we're measuring autonomic nervous system as well. No, honestly, it is. And so it's like, okay, Heidi, well, we can squeeze in some data collection here and I'm going to make sure that they can do a little bit of analysis in that month because, it's before that grant is due and all of this sort of shit. Because, because we make sure we're 2 years ahead funding wise.
Right.
So that we don't have to let people go. You know what I mean? Because I just can't do that.
Yeah.
So there's so much exciting stuff we're doing now for chiropractors. It is not even funny.
Yeah.
And another thing I'd like to say is if you don't know about this research, you please read about it because it's going so fast now. Like I'm struggling to keep up. Like honestly, Each end of the year, I have to Google search my own name, and I find extra publications that I didn't know had been published. Like it's insane how fast it's happening.
Yeah.
So if you are not aware, you're going to fall so far behind. And that's again why I'm translating all this science so that it makes sense. Because like, imagine if you could explain to people, and like kids, like that's the one thing that still drives me. Yeah. One of my most exciting projects coming up is this PhD project of one of my PhD students, Jenna Dewar. She's a midwife and a chiropractor, beautiful, beautiful woman. And she's doing the first ever baby EEG study. Because babies with asymmetry, now, isn't this exactly what we see? Babies that, have their head turned one way or can't turn one way or can't breastfeed on one side or they're crooked or they're, their heads are crooked. Or isn't that your typical chiro patient? Do you know the trajectory for these children that science is now showing us again in the last 20 years? It is appalling.
If it's not corrected.
If it's not corrected. And who else can do anything about that than us, right? No one. So if these babies are just left on their own to cry, to not feed properly, they end up with all these asymmetry problems. But that changes their whole brain wiring and it fucks them up for life.
No kidding.
Excuse my French.
Yeah. It's okay.
And I could dive into the science of it if you like, and Jenna can do it even better than me. But it is, and that's what always drove me is going into my office, like chiropractic office when I was still practicing, and seeing these parents in tears because they came back in with their baby who suddenly was feeding, sleeping, pooing.
Yeah.
And
I never thought I'd get so many
crying.
text messages about moms, oh, my baby just pooped. Thank you. And I'm like, you're welcome. I didn't touch the rectum. I just helped the body relax.
But it changes the way their baby's brain functions, perceives what's going on and controls their body. And that's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
And we can't forget that. Like even my bioengineer, Imran, who's not a chiropractor at all, but we've ended up doing quite a lot of clinical trials at hospitals in Pakistan, where he's from. And he has seen the effects in his people, you know what I mean? Like, and he's had people that, came from his village that were suicidal, that then turn around at the end of it, they're telling jokes and laughing. And he goes, I don't give a fuck about your politics. He doesn't actually swear. He's a very beautiful Muslim. he is.
You two make quite the pair, I'm
I
sure.
have corrupted him quite badly. But, he turns, I don't care about your politics, Heidi, and your profession. It's just stupid. You give people their life back.
Yeah.
And it adds so much. He could have left us like 10 times over.
Yeah.
He's had job offers like at 1,000 times better places than the New Zealand College of Chiropractic.
Yeah.
It's not a dream job for a star bioengineer.
Yeah.
But he has seen what it does. And the value that it gives, the quality of life that it gives real people. Hey, can I say one more thing before I forget it? Because I've got a bit of a branched mind there. Yeah. I honestly believe that what we were talking about before, why you started up the podcast, I think authenticity is really, really important. And if you can figure out what genuinely matters to you and be that and use that in your practice, even though it's different, like, you don't have to follow what someone else is doing. And if you try to use other people's scripts and stuff like that, I honestly feel like you'll fail. And even down to techniques you use, I'm an awful person. Technique, gurus don't really like me very much because I always say go and learn from them, but make it your own, like bastardize it. Yeah. Because, like we have tits and hips and, like you can't adjust like Gonstead. I don't have his hands, you can't adjust like some of the men out there, because we have, I remember trying as this massive 9-month pregnant me, trying to adjust a massive 9-month pregnant woman. Like you can't adjust like anyone else tells you how to adjust.
Yeah.
So learn from other women as well. Yeah. And keep that. Who are you? Who are you? Focus on who you are. Find out what your passions and loves are. And if you can express that and be that person, I think that's where success comes from.
I think you just summarized the whole Rockstar Doctor Life manifesto there. I think you just nailed it.
But it's so true that way.
I do think that. I think that the fastest way to an unhappy life is trying to be someone that you're not.
100%.
And it surprises me when people say to me, you're so like yourself. And I'm like, well, what's the alternative? Like,
I know.
And I have seen people, we've all known people who you can tell they're wearing a bit of a mask.
Yes.
And whether they're in practice, and I know back in my early days in practice, I can think about how I was dressing and how I was talking to people, and they were, I was trying to model myself after people that were successful,
I know.
but someone else's definition of success.
I know.
And I also have those moments where I look back and I'm like, oh, I cringe thinking that was never me. And
people see through that though.
They absolutely do.
And that's the thing, if you can be authentic, people can see that too.
Yeah.
And if you're speaking your truth, your honest truth, which is, again, all I do, I just travel the world now and say exactly what I believe to be the truth according to all the research that I've done and read. Mm-hmm. And I just speak that truth. It's not to validate anything or anyone. Yeah. It is literally just to tell you the truth. What does the data tell me? As a neurophysiologist and chiropractor and woman, with all my traumas and background, and I'm still this chubby Viking girl from Norway swearing like a trooper. Even on stage, people have to make jokes about it, like we're fundraising, for every swear word Heidi comes out with. Because I never set out to be an onstage person.
Right.
And I remember when I first started to present and people going, Heidi just disappeared up there. Where, who was that?
Yeah.
And I was trying to be professional.
Yeah.
And so I just gave that up very quickly. I was like, I just can't.
Yeah, it's not, people do absolutely see through it. And honestly, I think right now in this whole world of fakeness, AI, everything, people are looking towards humans. I think we're going to see a resurgence of humanity, if I dare say that. Like, are people turning back to, give me the quirky people. Give me the humans.
That. I agree.
I think that there's people who are done with it.
I get an incredibly positive, overwhelming positive feedback from just being authentically myself. Yeah. On stage around the world, it's quite mind blowing. Like, I get hugs and I like human connection, but I don't feel very good at it, because I'm a bit weird, obviously.
No,
or I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing.
I think
right?
you are absolutely. I know I could talk to you all day long, but I want to respect your time because I know how many things you have going on, and I love that you wrapped things up here with saying, be yourself and focus on your own expression of who you are and tap into your gifts, because clearly, listeners, if you haven't heard that or seen that, in Dr. Heidi's work, she's living her truth. She's living her energy, her passion. You are, a living example of doing something that you're good at.
Thank you.
And living with heart, right? And starting with heart. And I absolutely want to thank you, not just for your time today, but for the work that you've done. You're changing my practice, and you're changing how I communicate with other people. And from the strangers I met here in Auckland to the people back in my practice, all of my practice knew, they were like, "You're going to go see your son?" I go, "Yeah, but I'm also going to do some interviews." And I can't wait because this is the school that is doing all this brain-based research. Yeah. And, listeners, I really encourage you to follow the links and check out Dr. Heidi's work, but also find ways to support this research, because I think this is the future of our profession. And regardless of where you sit on what you believe chiropractic to be, you can apply this in a sports practice. You can apply this research into any kind of practice that you currently have.
Even if you're treating pain. There's no philosophy behind this. And that's the beauty of it. This is testing out, how does chiropractic work? How does an adjustment work?
Yeah.
And again, we could spend hours just talking about the whole pain thing, because it's funny thing is all of this research on pain, on stress, on mental health, guess what? They're moving away from a mechanistic model to a brain-based model. So even pain, even mental health, it's all a brain-based model now, exactly the same, and it fits like a hand in a glove with the research on chiropractic, on the subluxation and the effects of adjustments. It's unbelievable.
Chiropractic changes the brain.
Heaps of that out there too, so do check out the links.
Yeah. Any final thoughts? Anything that you wish... you're working with the young docs, so we won't go there.
I'd love to say also to look after yourself, because I think the world's getting quite, I don't want to say scary, but it's getting very busy. And I would encourage you. It took me at least 15 years to actually listen to my own advice. And, I now do not go a week without getting adjusted. I usually get adjusted twice a week because I stress all the time too.
Yeah.
But I just think there's a lot of you out there that were probably just like me, that were very good at giving the advice and knew what everybody should do, but you're not looking after yourself.
Yeah.
And again, you cannot be what you need to be for your practice, for your family, for anyone else, if you do not look after yourself first. So please look after yourself and make sure you prioritize you and your health and your well-being, and then be authentically you, and then just watch your life change. It shifts the energy around you. I know I'm a neurophysiologist, but Jesus, it's weird. There's so much we do not know about what's out there. And if you change you change your energy, you change what is attracted to you, and it just changes your life.
Yeah, brilliant advice. I know that there's plenty of docs who, even though we're in healthcare, they need the reminders, hey, how's your exercise? How's your sleep habits? How's your stress level? When's the last time you saw a chiropractor?
How's your mental health?
Are you feeling overwhelmed? You can, and again, going back to the whole motto that we have with this show, it's you can actually change things. You can actually build a life that is right for you. And it doesn't mean that the path is going to be easy, but it will get you more ease once you get there. And it may require some hard choices.
Yes.
It may require sacrifices.
Yes.
But the other side of that is like you said, a more blissful, joyful, healthy human experience on the other side of that. So
because we don't always know our own stories, and our brains create a narrative about our truth. Mine had to completely fall apart. I burnt out terribly about 15 years ago. But since then, I've realized that there's not much further down I could have gone.
Yeah.
If I went any further down, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
But so there's only up. There's only up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then that's when, for me, a lot of this just fell to the wayside because it wasn't important. I had 2 beautiful babies, children, and I just had to change the way I viewed who I was, what I do, what I don't do. I learned to say no, set boundaries.
There are things that all of us have to be reminded of. I mean,
I know.
I think about how I changed my business model 15 years ago. And, because I was feeling as a mother overwhelmed with all the things I had to do, and I wanted to be present with my kids, but I also want to impact people with chiropractic. And I had to simplify things. And now that my sons are, their life stage is different now, I have a lot more time. But my body's different now. I'm 52, not 35. So you have to, take care of your body and your mental health and your physical health. And a lot of docs need that reminder. So thank you for that.
No, my pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you so much, Melissa. I've really enjoyed talking to you.
Yeah. Well, have a great rest of your day. Listeners, be sure to check out all the show notes and all the links to find out more about Dr. Heidi's work and all the amazing things they are doing at the New Zealand College of Chiropractic. You've been listening to Rockstar Doctor Life. We hope you enjoyed today's show. And of course, we would love it if you shared it with someone you think would also benefit from today's conversation. And we'd love it if you would subscribe on your favorite podcast player. To find more information about today's guest or featured topic, just head on over to the show notes and you'll find all the other resources we'd love for you to check out.
The team at Genora believes self-care shouldn't be complicated. That's why they've created clean, highly effective skincare and supplements designed by women for women to support you inside and out at every stage of life. Start with Go Nightly Overnight Repair Cream and wake up to visibly plumper, smoother, deeply nourished skin. Discover the full range at genora.co.nz.